Okay, so it might be the most talked about vehicle of the year, but I did not get a Cybertruck. I have a Cybertruck. We're filming a Cybertruck. I didn't buy a Cybertruck. So let's move on. The crazy thing is that I haven't seen this car yet. I mean, I know it's here. I know it's mine. I haven't seen it yet. Okay, all right. It's me. I'll have lots to say. Right now, I'm just looking.
We're here at the reveal for Todd's Emira, and Todd is a Lotus guy. He's been a Lotus guy ever since he first drove an Elise, and I have wanted him to have an Emira ever since we drove the press car. He came away jaw-dropped, and it's pretty spectacular. It is a mini supercar. No, it is a supercar, and I'm just so happy for him. I wanted him to have one.
Okay, all right. That's the right color.
That's the right color.
I guess I should set the seat, probably. Theoretically, I should do that. Oh my God. All right. I like my hairnet. I'll take this off and use it. I'll just use it. It'll be mine. It'll be perfect. That's exactly what I need. A hairnet.
And I'm so excited for Todd because he gets to experience this. I mean, he's been a Lotus fanatic, just like I've been a Porsche fanatic, and this is such a great manifestation of that. But we're going to be driving them because it's easy when it's a new car and it's got new PPF and everything's clean and ready to go. It's very easy to say, I don't want to drive it. But when you get a car like this, if you're able, it's amazing to us that we're able to do this. So we're going to drive them. We're going to put miles on them. The whole point is to enjoy it.
These guys were awesome. That's what that does.
Now he's collecting Lotuses in addition to Cayennes.
Great cars, great roads, and all the reasons we love to drive.
Road trips, comparisons, test drives, and podcasts. This is Everyday Driver.
It does not feel real that this car is mine. It's going to take a little while to get to a place where it feels like it's mine. Now, I love Lotus. I have a Lotus Elise I've had for 7 years. In fact, I've had this Lotus Elise on my shirt for 7 years, put 30,000 miles on it, loved it, and I know what you're thinking. I know people have this perception of Lotus being remarkably unreliable and really difficult to own, and that has not been my experience. My little Lotus Elise has been incredibly reliable, multiple track days, huge multi-thousand mile road trips. It's been phenomenal. I am a huge believer in the Lotus handling philosophy paired with a Toyota engine. I love that about my Elise. When this Emira first got announced, Paul and I were very excited about it, and I thought, I like the Evora very much. In fact, I felt the Evora was overlooked by many, and I had kept thinking about getting an Evora. And then this Emira was announced, and I was like, no, if it drives even halfway like I think it will, I'd prefer to have an Emira. Then we drove it, and we loved it. The problem is, by the time we drove it, and Paul was really excited about the prospect of me getting one, I was excited too, but the reservations had happened years prior. This car was announced in July of 2021, and in the US, the Gator Motorsports dealer that I went with was putting in its first actual customer order by March of 2022. England got theirs, Asia got theirs, the US kept getting delayed. Those first orders from US dealers were supposed to be in the fourth quarter of 2022. They started building US cars, they started shipping US cars, but they weren't CARB compliant. California Air Resources Board would not sign off on these cars, and there's very little information as to why. Because it is the same engine and drivetrain as the Evora before, which was obviously CARB approved. Now it's an all new body, I get that, but the discussion that Lotus has said is because they were a smaller company, bigger companies kept essentially cutting the line to get reviewed. Maybe that's true, maybe it was something else. But ultimately, it took forever to get these cars certified. It wasn't until March of 2024 that the Lotus Emira was certified for US use, and the dealers who already had cars in warehouses in the US, including this exact car, had been sitting in a warehouse for months. They were finally, in March of this year, allowed to send cars out to customers who had bought them. But of course, if you're following the timeline, by the time Paul and I thought it'd be cool to get one of these, most dealers were hundreds of people deep. This dealer in Indianapolis, Gator Motorsports, they had 300 orders. The wait list is a long, long time, a year, maybe more. I had given up the chance of having an Emira on the front end of the discussion. We all know for YouTube, it's better to talk about a car early on than late. I just given up. And then something really unexpected happened. One of you, a viewer of our show, contacted me and said, hey, I have an order for an Emira, and circumstances have changed. Life has changed. I can no longer afford to have this car. Let me tell you what my build was, and tell me if you're interested. Well, being somebody that wanted one of these cars, I had configured this car many, many ways, and the build that I decided on was 3 things away from this guy's exact build. And thank you, Roger, for starting this entire process. I wanted this Magma red color. I wanted touring suspension, 6-speed manual. You can get a black top roof. I didn't want that. I wanted the Magma color on the roof as well. The things I would have done different is I would have done a tan interior instead of red, but this isn't an overwhelming amount of red. In fact, now that I've seen it, I like it more than I thought I would. Would have preferred tan, but the car's here. I wanted a leather steering wheel. This has the Alcantara. That doesn't really matter that much. I wanted all silver wheels, not black. Well, that can be fixed. In fact, they're actually going to get the wheels powder coated a cool silver. We're going to put Vredestein tires on it. Vredestein has a brand new high performance tire, so I'm excited to try those out on this car. So that'll be the very first thing we change. That'll go most of the distance to what I want this car to look like, is just getting it off of black wheels. So I talked to the dealer, Gator Motorsports. Tony over there was phenomenal. Early on in the conversation, Lotus was not allowing anyone to take anyone else's slots, somewhat understandable. But as the months rolled by, people have decided they don't want to wait anymore, people have given up their cars, people have decided they don't like the spec. There are gaps in the line. If I was willing to take it exactly as built, then it was just a simple paperwork transaction. The car exists, it's going to be delivered. So instead of Roger getting it, I paid for it and I now got it. But that brings us back to the cost. Whew. The most expensive car I have personally bought was my wife's used 2017 Cayenne at $37,000. The most expensive new car I've ever bought was that GR86 we bought for the show, which was $32,000 out the door. If you've paid attention at all, this car is 3 times those numbers. Now, I know what this looks like. It looks like YouTuber makes crazy YouTube money and buys another crazy YouTube car. That's not who we are. We have never been YouTube darlings. We've never made an amazing amount of money off of YouTube. We make a living, and thank you. And we get to do this for a living thanks to you guys watching and our sponsors supporting us. Buying a $100,000 car, especially last year when we bought that C8, well, this is where our job is simultaneously really cool and really strange. With what we do for a living, where we make videos and talk about cars, having the newest, latest, and greatest is simultaneously important and a write-off. So this is how the show can buy this Lotus Emira and take the risk against the viewership. Now, what does that mean for the long-term life of this car? I don't know. What I know is I have it. I cannot believe I have it. And I get to share it with you guys, like real aspirational ownership review of owning this car and doing everything you can imagine with it. That's the plan for this year. The first thing we did was get paint protection film. Before I even saw the car, it was shipped from Indiana. Gatorade Motorsports, they shipped it to Complete Detail Solutions here in Salt Lake City. And they did a phenomenal job taking this magma color red and actually giving it coverage throughout. And it's so new that the paint protection film is still heating up and healing. I mean, it was done like 24 hours ago is when they finished it. So it barely got finished before our big reveal. I'm incredibly thankful to Mark and all those guys at Complete Detail Solutions for doing that for me, because it was awesome. Fernando over there worked like crazy as well. We talked about it, and he was telling me how difficult the crazy body panels on this car were, but how much fun he had figuring it out. So now that it has full paint protection, the plan is everything. Big road trips, track days with Hooked on Driving, many of our local U.S. adventures this year. I'm going to take this car. I plan to daily it, even more so than I did the Elise. Now, Lotus has said this is their last internal combustion engine car. And this is such a step up from the Elise in niceties. This is definitely the competitor to something like the Cayman. It weighs about the Cayman does. This weighs 3,200 pounds, and my Lotus Elise weighs just under 2,000. So it is 50% heavier than my Lotus Elise, but it also has twice the horsepower. This is just over 400 horsepower, 310 pound-feet of torque in this supercharged Toyota Camry motor with a 6-speed manual. When we drove one for the show earlier, I drove the sport suspension. I wanted and got, with this car, the touring suspension. Sport suspension is only about 5% stiffer than the touring suspension, but my Lotus Elise has coilovers on it, and it actually has a surprisingly soft, well-settled ride. Knowing that I like that softer ride and I was going to road trip this car like crazy, I went for the touring suspension, and I can already tell you that I'm thrilled. One of the things Lotus has always been good at is this isn't an adjustable suspension. They just tune it and set it up properly. This absorbs bumps, but still feels taut, which is what I want for a road car. I'm still getting used to the inputs. Shifter feels good. It isn't the best shifter in history, but it reminds me so much of my Elise, which I'm used to, which means you don't rush it, you be very specific, and it's perfect. Clutch pedal feels very tight. The brakes are the only real surprise, because the brakes are a little bit too aggressive on initial bite, but I think I just need to get used to the car. What's amazing is this car embodies so many of the things we car lovers say we long for. 6-speed manual transmission available. A no EV assist supercharged engine going to the rear wheel drive only with hydraulically assisted steering, and fewer nannies and settings and touchscreen things than most cars have. This embodies all of those. This is one of the most analog cars being sold in 2024, which is crazy because I look around at the amenities in this car, at the niceties here, at the Apple CarPlay and the screen and the heated seats. Compared to the Elise I've been driving, this is a luxury car. I cannot wait to get this on road trips. I cannot wait to share this with you guys even more. It hasn't entirely landed yet. It doesn't completely feel like mine. It will, and putting that full paint protection film on it, I can't thank them enough for doing that. That is going to allow me to be less precious. I'll be honest with you. The price tag of 6 figures on this car makes me want to wrap it in bubble wrap. It does. There's that natural reaction of this was so expensive. What am I doing? But we talk about driving your cars. It's vital, if you own a fun car, to drive your fun car. So this is a challenge to me to not be precious. It's a challenge to me to embrace the fact that it is a car, that it has paint protection film, that stuff happens to cars, but you gotta drive them. That's what they're built for. It's what they long for. I cannot believe I get to drive this. I am so excited about this color. I debated yellow, but I already have a yellow Lotus. The Seneca blue they sell it in is the one that was on all the press cars. Gorgeous, great color. Saw a lot of those getting sold. And then I saw this darker red and thought, yeah, I hope that looks as good as I envision it looking, and it looks every bit that good. It's spectacular. Now, downsides. I'll tell you some already that I knew from driving it before. I sit higher in the car than I want to. I want the seats to be an inch or two lower. I want to sit lower in the cabin. Now, I'm a tall guy. I've got a long torso. That's been an issue with me with lots of cars, but I feel like in the Evora, I sat lower, and There were some really good Recaros in the Evora GT that are some of the best seats ever, and I miss those seats. They are still better than these. Now, having said that, these are very comfortable seats. The body position in here is good. I feel like I could do thousands of miles in this car, which is good because I intend to. The yellow Elise is staying. I have been told by both my wife and my 14-year-old son that I cannot sell that yellow Elise, at least until he gets to really drive it. But the truth is, that is a moment-in-time car, and it runs. It's very reliable. So there's no part of me that wants to get rid of it if we can afford to keep it, because that is an incredibly special car that will never come again. But this is Lotus showing the rest of the car-making world. You can still do a car this analog without it feeling old. You can do a car that does all the things that we don't do that anymore, and people will really go, yeah, I do want that. Lotus has been overwhelmed with orders for this car. It has already had far more interest than they expected. Now, with the slow delivery process, with the inevitable foibles I'm sure some people will have with their car, and I'll document any that happen to me, what will be the lifespan of this car? What will be the revisions of it? Will this be replaced by something all electric? We just don't know. But this is the journey we'll take. These are the questions we'll answer. There's so much video from us in the back half of this year. The first half of this year, we had a backer and we bought a company, a tracking company called Hooked on Driving. We're doing nationwide track events, and we welcome newcomers. We're changing the way track days are being done to welcome people that have always wanted to and never gone. So these videos aren't stopping. And we have so many more things to do, so many more road trips to take, adventures to have, and all of them we're going to share with you. And I cannot believe that I get to spend the rest of this calendar year and into next year for sure driving a brand new first edition Lotus Emira. I know what some of you are saying. Todd really likes red. I know it's my color for the show. I promise to never wear a red t-shirt in this car. That's entirely too much red. I really did want a tan interior, but I take this car now with a red interior than waiting a year or two to get one with tan. Love this spec. This is a very special car. I need you guys to understand that for me, this is a hypercar. The cost of this, the achievement of having this, even if it's for a short time only to cover it for the show, and I hope it sticks around longer, but even if it's just for the coverage we need to do, to be able to say that Lotus Emira is mine is mind-boggling. It's strange. It doesn't feel like that should be a thing that happens to me. This may as well be a hypercar. It may as well be millions of dollars, because that's what it feels like.